With Dr. D.Z. Cofield. The show represents captivating conversations and insightful information to encourage and inspire you with all you need to become the best you can possibly be. And now, your host for Real World, Real Talk, Dr. D.Z. Cofield.
Welcome to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. D.Z. Cofield, and you're listening to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, your community station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. One of the phrases that you might hear spoken, especially as America is getting older, is this idea of aging in place. I'd like to throw a little different twist on that phrase, and let's talk about aging with grace. The fact of the matter is, as baby boomers, those who were born between 1946 and 1964 are getting older, we're seeing a stress and strain on the resources in our country, and we're seeing higher demand for services for those who are aging. It's causing families to have to rethink how do they provide care for their aging family members. And for those of us who are part of that baby boomer generation and those who are older, how do we provide for ourselves? How do we age, not just in place, but how do we age in grace? I've got two young ladies who are with me on tonight who are going to give us some insight. They're working on a project that I think you might be interested in. So if you know somebody who is classified as a senior, now listen, I got to say this, because normally those who are senior are trying to identify with those who are younger. This is a great time for you to acknowledge and accept that you are getting older, because this is going to be a tremendous, tremendous program that can benefit you, access you to resources to help you learn how to age in place and age in grace. Now, just a couple of housekeeping matters before we get started. If you'd like to follow me during the week, you can follow me on Instagram at DZ Cofield. You can follow me on Twitter at DZ Cofield, and you can follow me on Facebook at, you guessed it, DZ Cofield. So this idea of aging is not something that is new. We have seen it in previous generations. We've seen our senior family members deal with what we called at the time senility. We're seeing now the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's and the like, and just getting old. You know, somebody came to me and said, man, I'm getting old. You know, we getting old, you getting old. And I'm like, yeah, but it kind of beats the alternative, right? So the question is, how do we get old? And how do we manage this aging process in the best way possible? I'm happy to welcome with us today Sophia Lee. She is originally from the greater Dallas area. She currently lives here in Houston. She's a third-year student, occupational therapy student, studying at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. She previously received her Bachelor's of Science in Science, Technology, and Society from Stanford University. And her partner in this project is another lovely young lady, Armeen. Armeen is an occupational therapy doctoral student as well. She completed her bachelor's degree at Texas A&M University in kinesiology, minor in psychology. She's from Houston, and she is working on her doctorate in occupational therapy as well. Join me in welcoming these two young ladies to Real World, Real Talk. Sophia, Armeen, how are you all doing today?
Good. How are you?
They're doing great, man. We are so excited to have you on today to talk about this capstone project, to talk about what you all are doing, especially in the area of aging. When I heard about this past week, I was like, man, I got to get these young ladies on, in part because aging is something that I'm dealing with, but it's also something that a large population in our society is dealing with as well. So before we get started with your specific project, let's talk in general. What is occupational therapy? Because I know a lot of people, when they hear the
Mhm.
term, they think about, oh, you're going to help me get a job.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm unemployed. I need a job. I need an occupational therapist. But occupational therapy is so much more than that. So give our audience a definition of what occupational therapy is.
Of course, and you're completely correct. There's a lot of misconceptions surrounding the term occupational therapy. So, what it is a therapeutic and rehabilitative profession that aims to help people either gain or regain the skills necessary to participate in those activities that occupy their time in their everyday life. And so that's where the term occupational therapy comes from. So, these activities can be any everyday activity that a person needs to do or wants to do. And that includes things like going to the bathroom, getting dressed, showering, eating, grocery shopping, gardening. And those are just a couple examples. But if you just think about all the things that you do in a day, they're all occupations. And as occupational therapists, we offer a pretty holistic view. So we're considering physical, emotional, environmental, sensory, um, cognitive. We look at all of these different aspects to figure out, okay, what is preventing this individual from engaging and participating in their everyday life and what they want to do. And depending on that, we come up with an individualized plan of care to target those different factors to help increase someone's function, their quality of life, their health, their wellness, and all of those aspects. So that's kind of a quick definition of occupational therapy.
So tell me why you all chose this as a profession, because I think it's really fascinating when I hear people talk about occupational therapy because it encompasses so much.
Mhm.
Let's hear your story. How did you get to the place where you said, I want to be an occupational therapist? This is what I want to do.
So,
Armin?
yes, so specifically for me, it kind of started off when I was younger, but I didn't really know that I was going to end up in OT, but I ended up there. So, my brother was diagnosed with autism when he was born. And while he was growing up, he received occupational therapy services. So, they helped him with feeding, they helped him with his visual perceptual, visual spatial skills, and different other like ADLs or activities of daily living that he does on a daily basis. So he worked with an occupational therapist, but I still wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. So when I went into college, I really had to think about what I wanted to do later in life because I was pursuing a degree. Originally, I was in pre med because my dad is a physician and he was always pushing me towards the medical field. So I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I took a couple of those classes and realized that's not exactly what I want to do. So I was confused for a year. I tried a bunch of different things, including accounting, including entomology, general studies, and everything wasn't really fitting. So I called my mom one day and I was like, oh, what should I do? I'm very confused right now. And she's like, well, your brother worked with an occupational therapist. Why don't you give that a try? And I was like, okay, let me see how it goes. So I went to an outpatient clinic and shadowed an occupational therapist there. And something just clicked after that. I felt like it was a really good fit for me. And I was like, okay, wait, maybe this is what I want to do. So I shadowed at a hospital, at another hand therapy clinic as well. And it really worked out. So I was like, okay, maybe this is what I like to do. And then that's kind of how my journey started with occupational therapy.
Wow. What about you, Sophia?
So for me, I actually first learned of the term occupational therapy from a physical therapist. So growing up, I did some gymnastics, and with my experience in gymnastics, I had some mild and some less mild injuries. So I worked with physical therapists a lot growing up, and I found what I really appreciated the impact they had on my recovery and my function. And it seemed like a very fulfilling and fun profession. And that's what sparked my interest in the therapeutic professions in general. However, through my experiences being injured, I kind of noticed how those injuries made it really tough to do my everyday activities like I was doing previously. So I had an Achilles tendon rupture, and it was really tough to get in and out of the bathtub. I had to kind of like lean on the tub and like swing one leg and try to catch myself, and doing things and standing, brushing my teeth, washing my face, putting pants on. Those things were also impacted. I wasn't able to drive from those injuries. And then I also had an injury of my I fractured both bones in my forearm, and I wasn't able to put my hair up, or it was a lot more difficult to do activities that required two hands. So opening shampoo and conditioner, I kind of had to put them under my arm, and kind of squeezing toothpaste. It's really hard to put toothpaste on a toothbrush when you can't stabilize it. The toothbrush will just fall over and the toothpaste goes into the sink. So I had these experiences, and it really struck me how these everyday things that are routines and habits for us that we're doing every day, we don't usually give a second thought. It's just habitual, and how much that they could be impacted. And so with those experiences, I was kind of talking to my physical therapist and saying, hey, like, I really value what y'all are doing. However, I'm really interested in working directly and helping people get back to doing those activities. So I was really interested in that kind of intersection between people's abilities and the demands of activities and occupations, and working on that to help them directly go back to what's really important for them in their life. And I had occupational therapy in my mind going to college. Like Armin, though, I was unsure. I still wanted to explore other avenues. But time and time again in college, I found myself trying to link occupational therapy into the classes that I was taking, into the papers I was writing. And I realized how important being able to have as much independence as possible in those everyday occupations, how important that is to having autonomy and having a positive quality of life and mental health. And so I also shadowed, like Armin mentioned, and I felt very motivated and fulfilled. And so I decided to pursue occupational therapy.
Wow, that's awesome. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DZ Cofield, and you're listening to your community station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. So let's talk about your capstone project. You all are third-year students. You're finishing up your doctoral studies in occupational therapy. So congratulations. Tell us about your capstone project and what it's about, and what was the impetus behind you all choosing this as your capstone project.
So a little bit about our project. It's a 6-week program called Hope for Aging in Place. So the purpose of it is behind aging in place, and we can talk about what that is. I know you mentioned it a little before, but we can talk about like the emphasis of that a little later as well. But what we're really targeting is helping individuals age in place. So that pretty much means like aging at home. Because I know a lot of older adults, they don't want to go to other people's homes. They don't want to go to different facilities. A lot of people feel very comfortable in their home. So they want to stay at home because that's the most comfortable atmosphere for them. So our 6-week program will target different aspects of aging in place every single week. So some of these topics include typical versus atypical aging patterns, the importance of physical activity in day-to-day life, nutrition and wellness, environmental modifications, along with energy conservation techniques, and appropriate ways to use durable medical equipment. So that includes rolling walkers, wheelchairs, bedside commodes, and things like that.
What made you choose it, Sophia, as you all work together and you identify what your project was going to be?
Mm-hmm. So there are various reasons that we chose this project. And so one aspect, before our capstone semester, we had fieldwork clinical experiences where we were in more clinical medical settings. So I was at an inpatient rehabilitative setting, and Armin was at acute care. And so through our experiences there, I know I met a lot of people who had been hospitalized due to falls or multiple falls in their home. And I saw how a hospital stay impacted their function, and how tough the recovery could be, and how sometimes they might not have recovered to the level that they were before. And so I was really interested, we were really interested in kind of trying to connect and try to meet adults before the falls happen to kind of hit that primary prevention stage, and to kind of connect with the population, with the community that we might not typically see, because usually we see people after something has already happened and we do the rehab in that way. But we were definitely hoping to connect with communities to prevent those things. And so we were working at Good Hope Church, and our site mentor is Pastor Chris Johnson, and he works with the food pantry. So hearing about the food pantry, they were talking about kind of the age distribution of their clients, and a great portion of the clients were 60 years and older, and the second biggest age group was 51 years and older. And so we saw that due to the population distribution and breakdown, that there was this older adult population being served by the church. And we also learned about that there's a senior ministry at the congregation, and we really that really helped marry our interests together. We saw the need there, and also talking to you guys kind of heard that need as well, and it connected with some of our previous experiences and interests.
Yeah, I think so. You all are not old enough to have experienced this yet. When you're young, you fall and you're kind of getting up while you're falling, and you get up really, really quick. When you get older, you fall in slow motion. And it's like your life doesn't pass before your eyes, but the results of the fall kind of pass before your eyes. And so I think you're right when you talk about falling being, so high on the list of how seniors are getting hurt, and the inability to recover to where you were prior to your fall. I know for me, my physical therapy, ran out before my injury could be fully recovered from, and still have some issues now because of that. And so I think those adjustments and those changes, that for me is the beauty of occupational therapy, because you all help us manage the changes that we're going through naturally, right? You don't necessarily have to fall. Just getting old, you're not going to move as fast as you used to move. You're not have the dexterity that you used to have. You're not going to be able to do the things. Your mind may not be as sharp as it used to be. And even if your mind is as sharp, your body typically is not as sharp. And so, you all have a tremendous role to play in making this happen. Let's talk a little bit about your capstone project, and um, how does this play out in our society, specifically aging in place? Let's talk about that, the idea of aging in place, because there are some facilities that are using this term now to move people from independent living to, um, supervised or assisted living, to skilled nursing, to hospice, and then, eventually helping people to manage the death process as they move closer to that. What does aging in place mean in society as you all are thinking about it when you talk about people being in their homes, Armin?
So specifically, I feel like everyone might have their own twist for the definition of aging in place. But for me, it really refers to remaining in your own home as you progress and as you get older, rather than going to a different facility as well. So, kind of like I mentioned before, a lot of people, most people, find comfort in their own home. They want to stay where they are. They are comfortable where they are. They would rather just be able to reside where they naturally stay. However, this might not be the safest option. So if it's not the safest option for an individual, then of course move them somewhere else, move them to where they need to be safer. However, if it's possible, which it is possible, to remain in your home and remain where you feel comfortable, then that is kind of the goal for our capstone project, aging in place. And there are factors and there are ways to help individuals age in place, which is the purpose of our project as well. So ways to promote aging in place can be having a healthy lifestyle, exercising, engaging in preventative health behaviors. So going to the doctor, getting your vaccinations, getting what you need to do, along with fall prevention. And that's kind of the scope of what our project is, along with engaging in meaningful activities or occupations like Sophia was talking about as well.
So let's go down the list. You mentioned the 6 weeks and what you will be covering, but let's take our time and go through each of them in more detail. First, the summary of aging and conditions. And you mentioned earlier falls and the role that that plays in the care of people. And I know there are a lot of people who will put loved ones in facilities in part because when they're alone, they fell, could not take care of themselves. I think we've all seen the commercial of, the alert, that people were wearing around their necks and, calling the person saying, I've fallen and I can't get up. Um, Talk about how often that happens because I think one of the things I always want to do on our show is to let people know that whatever they're going through, they're not going through in isolation. They're not going through alone. They're not the only people who are going through this. So, can you talk a little bit about the frequency of falling being an issue among seniors and what you all are going to do in this project to help people think through that before they fall in a preventive way as well as in an innovative way of how to help people who have fallen? So talk about the frequency of falls among seniors, because I think people will be surprised
Mhm.
at that number.
Yeah. And I was definitely surprised when I was reading about the frequency of falls as well. According to the CDC, they report that falls are the leading cause of injury and deaths from injury from in adults older than 65 years of age. And so they share that 1 in 4 adults fall in the United States each year, and that every time you fall, it doubles your chance of falling again. So this is definitely a pretty widespread issue that's happening around the United States. And it's not just, you're not alone for sure.
Wait a minute, Sophia, you just said something that I don't want people to miss. You said when you fall, every time you fall, you are twice as likely to fall again.
Or the CDC, they share that falling one time doubles your chance of falling again. So after you
Wow.
have, sorry, so I misspoke. So after you have that first fall, your chances of falling increase after that.
No, no, no. I thought that's what you said. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss it. Which just makes me hold on to the banister that much tighter when I'm going down the banister. Um, so are you all addressing helping people to not fall or addressing and helping people who have fallen or both?
So I would say both. So, well, for people who have fallen, definitely you'd want to seek professional medical help. So, kind of through our program, we're going to want to be talking about the first week, like you mentioned, age related changes versus atypical age related changes, just to give out some education and information on what changes you might be going through as you progress through life to make sure that you can. So, for example, eyesight in darkness decreases as you age. So some recommendations we'd have is to install different kinds of lighting and to make sure that you turn the lights on. So we kind of want to give information to adults so that they know what changes are occurring. And we also want to give strategies like environmental strategies, personal strategies that they can use to mitigate those changes and prevent falls. And also for people who have experienced falls, when they go back home, we also want to give these strategies as well to help them prevent further falls or to reinforce any strategies that they've received from their own therapy team while they were being treated.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you all mentioned that because it seems real simple and it would seem like common sense, but common sense is not common. But when you talk about the fact that our eyesight changes, we know it in terms of our steps getting shorter and our glasses getting thicker, right? We understand that, but I don't know if everybody actually thinks about the fact that because my eyesight is changing, I'm not going to see as well at night as I normally would. So I might need to take that night light out of my grandchild's room and put it in my room, so I can see better at night. So no, that's man, that's an awesome idea. Let's talk about environmental and home modifications. what are some of the things that you're going to talk about during that session?
So specifically for environmental and home modifications, kind of like Sophia mentioned, the lighting is really important, right? Of course, if you're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, a lot of times people just kind of go for it because it's hard to turn the light on. If you don't have a night light that's next to you, it can just be difficult to navigate that. Along with that, the importance of durable medical equipment when you're at home as well. So let's just say you have a rolling walker. There's proper ways to get on it. There's proper ways to sit down. All of those things are really important because if you're using this type of equipment improperly, that can lead to another fall as well. There's also a lot of people put throw rugs on their like kitchens or in their rooms because it looks nice, but this can also increase the risk of a fall because what if you slip on the rug? So there's multiple different environmental factors that can be changed to prevent falls. And of course, falls can still happen, but there are ways to prevent it, right? So we would do our best to make the ideal environment for individuals growing older to prevent those falls.
Yeah. And adding on to what Arvine said, just to intrigue people a little more. So there, like she said, a lot of different things. So in the living room, we can talk about like the different types of chair heights or putting chairs around and reducing clutter, as well as give some general recommendations on where to place your items so that you're preventing having to bend over or reach up. Or in the shower, some different strategies on maybe you can use a bathrobe towel to dry off to kind of change that sequence following the shower so that you can sit down and dry, or you can so do what works best for you. Or for low vision, there are different reflector tapes you can put on staircases, or you can put them on different oven dials or microwave buttons. And so there's really a lot that we can do with home modifications and environmental modifications. And it seems like it would be kind of like common sense, like you were saying, but a lot of our, we've just established our habits and our routines. And so it's second nature, super quick. And it's not often that we think to start changing these things as we change.
You're listening to Real World, Real Talk on Houston's member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more. Your community station, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and ktsuradio.com. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to continue to look at the topics that are going to be covered in these upcoming weeks around aging in place and doing it with grace. And we're going to talk about how you can become part of the project. You can register and connect in person as well as online. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. DC Cofield, and you're listening to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more. KTSU, your community station, 90.9 on the FM dial and ktsuradio.com. We're talking about hope for aging in place, how to not just age in place, but age in grace. And what are some things that you need to do for yourself or for maybe a loved one to make sure that you stay safe in your own home and are able to age in place in your home. I want to thank Miss Sophia and Miss Armine, who are with us. They are occupational therapy doctoral students at University of Texas medical branch here in Galveston, and they are in the midst of their capstone project. For those who may be just tuning in, tell us again what made this the capstone project that you both decided that you would do. Armine?
So specifically, again, like Sophia mentioned, we came into this project kind of brand new. So we transferred from one project to another very last minute. And as we were working with the food pantry, we saw like the presentations and we saw the demographics and we saw that there was a very high population for older adults in our Houston community. And along with that, we also know that fall prevention is a very, very big factor that happens in society. During my clinical experience, I worked in an acute care setting. So something that we do specifically in acute care is discharge recommendation. So that pretty much means us, occupational therapists, along with the entire medical team, which includes physical therapy, the physician, the nurse practitioner, the nurses, we all look at where an individual would be safe to go home or where they would be safe to go. So that could be at an inpatient rehab like Sophia worked at. That could be at a skilled nursing facility. That could be back to their homes, just depending wherever they will be safe. So a pattern that I really kind of noticed during my clinical rotation was everyone really wanted to go home, even if it wasn't the safest option. Obviously, we recommend what is safe for the clients. But because of this, this is kind of where we got the idea for aging in place, because aging in place is really just aging where you feel the most comfortable, aging at home, aging where you want to age. So that is kind of what drove both of us to really getting to this idea, to get into fall prevention, especially because we saw a lot of falls in our clinical rotation. It affects a lot of older adults in the community today.
So you have a 6-week program that you're doing specifically targeting seniors. And I would imagine those, especially who are caregivers for seniors, could benefit from this as well. Although
Yeah.
I'm sure that they have received some training,
Mhm.
never get enough training. So we started first, your first week, you're going to talk about summary of aging and conditions. Second week, you're going to talk about environmental and home modifications. Let's move to nutrition and wellness. I think it's challenging for a lot of people because we don't realize as we age, our dietary and nutritional needs change as well. And sometimes, if we continue to eat the way we used to eat, those continued bad habits can result in negative things. So we got to make sure we make some shifts. Talk about what you are going to deal with in that segment of your capstone project. Sophia?
Yeah. And so for that capstone project, like you mentioned, we'll talk about kind of the changes in diet or what changes might need to be made to have that balanced, nourishing diet. And kind of an interesting thing, a normal age-related change is decreased taste and smell. And so sometimes we may be finding ourselves eating things that are like saltier, sweeter, more sour and spicier, just so that we can have the same intensity of taste and smell that we previously had. So we want to kind of highlight the changes that might be occurring, and we want to talk about general nutrition guidelines. You guys might have heard of My Plate, so we'll talk about those aspects. And we also want to talk about how, because with nutrition, we know a big component of occupational therapy is thinking about how the person, their environment, and the occupation interact with each other. So even if people have the education and the knowledge, we also want to make sure that they're able to fit it into their habits and their routines based on their own specific lifestyle. So making sure, because usually eating balanced and nourishing and sustainable requires cooking and obtaining food from certain places, and it's a whole process that we don't often think about beyond just eating healthy. And so we're going to talk about general nutrition guidelines and recommendations, as well as kind of budget appropriate foods and different ways to try to fit that into an individual's lifestyle, the lifestyles that they have, to make it sustainable and accessible for them.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, we don't typically think about, for example, as you age, if you can't stand for a long time, how can you stand at a stove and cook if you're not able to stand, right?
Mhm.
And you can't see food like you used to see food. And as you stated, if you can't taste food like you used to taste it, there's just so many things going on that, and those shifts and those changes are really subtle in a way. And so, before you know it, you could be raising your blood pressure just by adding additional salt and additional spices over time that you were not aware of. That's really, really fascinating. Let's talk about DME, durable medical equipment, and what that means and what you're looking at covering in that program, week 4.
So, durable medical equipment is equipment that includes wheelchairs, rolling walkers, bedside commodes, hospital bed. So like equipment that you can use to help increase your independence at home. Something that was really interesting to me, I kind of mentioned this before, is the use of this equipment, the proper use of this equipment. So when I was in my acute care rotation, a lot of people had to use this type of equipment after, let's just say, a knee replacement or a surgery or kind of something similar to the source. So it was their first time really using equipment like this. And the techniques and the use of this equipment is very, very important to make sure that individuals don't fall or fall again. Because sometimes the way that you get out of bed, the way that you are holding onto the walker, the way that you are transferring into a wheelchair can make the biggest difference. So we really wanted to educate individuals on the proper uses for these equipment. For bedside commodes, there's a 3-in-1 commode. So there's 3 different ways that you can use this. So we just want to make sure that individuals are using this equipment to their optimal advantage, along with using it the proper way so injuries can be prevented as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Sophia?
Exactly. And adding on, we also want to give tips just because it's important to have the proper fit. A lot of the durable medical equipment, they're adjustable. And so there can kind of be some confusion on what height should this be? Like, what height should my cane be? What height should my rolling walker be? Or even how to use these durable medical equipment how are you going to maneuver to the bathroom when you have this cane or this walker or wheelchair? Or how are you going to try and cook? Or how are you going to get around your home when you have all of these equipment? And so so those are some aspects. And also really important, since we're targeting people who as a prevention or following a fall, preventing more falls, usually durable medical equipment, certain ones in the hospital can be covered by Medicare, but I'm not so sure if you don't have that medical need in the hospital, how much insurance covers. That's still something I'm learning. And so we also want to be able to connect people to different community resources that might be able to offer support in obtaining durable medical equipment that they might need.
Wow, that's great. Okay, this is a biggie, physical activity. I think a lot of seniors who can tell great war stories about how active they were when they were young and how they could run all day and jump all day and dance all night and stay up all night and then go to work the next day, stay up all day. I jokingly say, when you're young, staying up all night is fun. When you get old, sleeping all night is fun.
Yeah.
Just glad to get a good night's sleep and not have to go to the bathroom and trek all night long. Talk about physical activity and the role that plays in aging in the proper way.
So physical activity, like you mentioned, is very, very important as you get older. As you get older, the risk for cardiovascular disease increase as well. So just being able to do not simple for everyone, but just being able to take a walk, to be doing tasks that don't have to be too strenuous can be really important. And as I'm just growing up, even though I'm just 25, the importance of physical activity affects your physical health, yes, but it also affects your mental health, which is also really important. Simply just getting out of the house, going to the grocery store, spending time with your friends, all of these different things incorporate a little bit of physical activity. And they're all really important for aging as well. I know that I think some people, like some older adults, they walk a mile every day or they walk 2 miles every day. And they say that it makes the world of a difference, especially for prevention, especially for when you go to the hospital. If you go to the hospital, a lot of people that are physically fit or are more, they have more physical activity in their lives, they feel like their treatments are a little bit better because they're able to recover faster due to their physical activity. So we're just going to really talk about the importance of physical activity, the benefits of physical activity in day-to-day life, especially as you age, and the alternatives of physical activity, because it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be going on a jog on the treadmill. It can be doing simple aerobics. It can be going in the swimming pool. There's a lot of alternatives that can make it fun as well.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
was checking out some chair aerobics. I think I just need to make sure my chair is reinforced. But I saw some,
Yeah.
I saw some chair movements, some chair calisthenics, some crunches and things.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I may have to start doing that. All right, Sophia, let's talk about energy conservation because it almost seems antithetical to physical activity. What are you all going to cover when you talk about energy conservation?
Yeah. So our last topic, energy conservation, they might be things that you guys have already been implementing in your lives and that you didn't know there was a name to it, or you did know there's a name to it. So energy conservation, it's so there are four different P's for energy conservation. That's going to be prioritizing, planning, pacing, and Armin, what's the fourth one?
Positioning.
And positioning. That's right. And so energy conservation is really going to be about thinking about all the things that you need to do in a day, what you need to do in a week, and prioritizing those things and thinking about how much energy each of those activities take. So you can structure your day and your week in a way where you're able to make sure you have enough energy to get done the things that are the most important for you. And so for energy conservation, there'll be a lot of more just tips for scheduling, planning and prioritizing, as well as when to take breaks and just making sure that you're able to preserve the energy that you have to get what you need to get done.
Wow. That's such a powerful concept because I think you're absolutely right. You know, when you're younger, you don't even think about that. You're just going and you may make four trips to get, four different things when you,
I don't know, I rest a lot.
yeah, well, if you had just thought about it and planned, you say, okay, hey, when I go, oh yeah, let me get that, and let me do that, and then I can get those three things done while I'm going to do that one thing. So that's actually, man, that's really really powerful. I think you guys are pretty smart. Let's talk about the implementation of the program. What are the things that you're looking at first? I know you have some materials. For those of you who are listening, you can go to the Good Hope Church website. That's goodhope.org, and there will be a link there at goodhope.org, and you'll be able to connect with all of their materials. But you have Zoom, Microsoft PowerPoint research that you're going to make available there. And let's walk through why that's important and how people can help you to become part of this capstone project, because the more people we can get involved, the more people you all can help, but also the better it is for you all and what you're doing. So let's talk about how we can get as many people as possible tied into this.
So we are planning on doing this as a hybrid workshop. So individuals, if you aren't able to attend it in person, it will be on in person at Good Hope Church on Sunday, starting on May 28th, and then going on every Sunday since then for 6 weeks. And it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you're not able to live stream it, or if you're not able to watch it, if you're not able to attend it in person, there will be a live stream link. Along with that, if you're not able to access the internet or not able to access it through there, then we can also have paper copies with the PowerPoint and the information that you can receive. Additionally, it will be available after the recordings are complete. They will be available on the Good Hope website along with the Good Hope mobile application. So that's really helpful. Y'all should definitely download that. But you should definitely come out to the event. You should definitely come and see and tell your friends and family about it as well. All this information is useful regardless of your age. It doesn't only have to be for older adults, because a lot of us, especially me, I have my grandma that's growing up, or not growing up. I have my grandma that is old. She actually just recently had a fall. So all this information can be useful for anyone at any age.
Yes, I love that, Armin. And I also want to really emphasize what you were just saying about how this information is really beneficial for not only older adults, but adults of any age, just because this information can help you make plans for your future and what kind of environmental modifications or what kind of things you might want in the future, how you might want to structure your home and the living situations there. And so this can really be good for anyone of any age.
So let's talk about the pre and post surveys, because I know that's going to be an important component of your project, and they will be able to go to a link But let's talk about why that's important. Actually, before you can even register and get the link, you will have to complete the pre-survey and then the post-survey that follow up. What are some of the things that you're looking to gather in the pre-survey and information that you want to glean in the post-survey? Sophia?
Yeah, we're going to be asking some questions specific to the topic of each week to kind of gather information on what knowledge people have about the topics before having this versus after, and if they learn things. And we kind of want to gather information on what else people would have liked to see in regard to those topics and kind of what they're facing in their own life, and just to also figure out if there are certain areas that we need to go more into detail, or if there's certain areas that people already have a lot of common knowledge on that we don't have to go as much into details. And so we really just want to get some information to figure out also what population, what age group we're communicating with the most, and how we can just best help everyone.
So they will be doing the pre-surveys for each class session and then a post-survey following up each class session?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about a program that is being conducted as a capstone project by Sophia Lee and Armin Parali, Hope for Aging in Place program, looking at aging and how do we help our seniors stay in their homes as long as possible. If you may be moving a senior into your home, how can you make your home more senior friendly so that that senior can avoid one of the most common problems that seniors have, and that's falling and the injuries that are sustained around falling. As we get ready to close our show today, Sophia, give us some closing thoughts, and then Armin, I'd like for you to give us some closing thoughts as well, and encouragement to people to come out. Remember, the program starts May the 28th at 9 a.m. Now, if you'd like to come in person, we have consented to host these young ladies in their capstone program at our church, Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, 3015 North McGregor Way. This program is free of charge. So there is no money that you have to pay to be part of this program. You can just come and you can benefit from it. As a matter of fact, we would like for you to go to goodhope.org and register, because we're going to make sure we have a continental breakfast prepared for our seniors who come and participate in the program. It's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So for those of you who have 10 o'clock service or 11 o'clock service, you'll still be able to get there. If you have an 8 o'clock service, you can come over after you finish there. But from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And for those of you who will not be able to get there in person, just make whatever adjustments depending on the time zone that you live in, and you can watch the live stream of the service that is being provided by these two young ladies and get the information, or you can go back and watch it later on. But give us some of your final thoughts, Sophia, and then Armin, just about the program and why people should register and become part of this program.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having us on your radio show and for connecting us with your community and with the church and giving us this opportunity. So from the statistics that we talked about before, falls are very prevalent in the adult population, and they are associated with decreased quality of life. And from what we saw, we are really interested in tackling preventing falls rather than, well, we also want to address falls after they happen, but we really want to try to prevent those falls. And so through our program, we are hoping it's pretty comprehensive and it can be individualized, to give you guys tips, to give everyone tips on how they can remain in their home, the home that they're choosing, to promote independence, autonomy, increased quality of life. We're hoping that you guys will come join us in person or through the live stream, or watch later if you can, just to join a like-minded community, to feel some fellowship with people who may be going through the same changes you're going through, who may be going through the same difficulties. And hopefully we can give you guys some ideas and tips, and you'll also hopefully be able to engage in conversations with your peers and exchange different ideas with what has worked and what hasn't as well. Thank you guys so much for letting us share our program with you guys.
Thank you. Armin?
Yes. Thank you again. Thank you so much for having us on your show. I feel like Sophia covered a lot of it, but aging is happening every single day, every single minute. It's something that we all have to go through, regardless of the age that we are. I've seen falls happen in my family. It is very common. It happened to my grandma 2 weeks ago. And I think this is just a great preventative approach, along with just an approach to help other individuals see what actually happens within aging, what happens when we grow up, along with just safety measures that we can take to prevent falls and to help aging in place really happen in our society. The importance of nutrition, physical activity, durable medical equipment, preventative behaviors, all of these are really important in our day-to-day society. And I feel like this program is beneficial to all at any age group. So y'all should definitely come out, and thank you again for listening.
Yes. Oh, and one more thing. I was thinking, I wanted to add that I really loved what Pastor Cofield was saying about aging with grace. We're also hoping through this program, there's a lot of stigma attached to aging, and we're hoping to kind of remove that stigma from aging and create a more positive connotation, a more positive experience to think about what are the things we can do to help add to people's lives and to increase their engagement with their community, with their family members, and help them connect to the things that they want to be doing that are going to be fulfilling and meaningful for them, for you guys. So hopefully this will also be a positive experience where you can take away different strategies and connect with people to bring more things, more joy into your lives.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of you being with us and sharing this information. Again, this program will begin on May the 28th. That's a Sunday at 9 a.m. live at the Good Hope Church, 3015 North McGregor Way. If you cannot make it live, you can live stream. Go to goodhope.org. That's where you can register. You can also live stream us. And if you want to watch the recording later on, you're able to do that as well. Hope for Aging in Place program, Sophia Lee and Armin Parali. We want to thank you both for being with us today on Real World, Real Talk. The late Vernon John said, if you see a good fight, get in it. I always add, if you don't see a good fight, start one. And the fight for your health and your dignity, these young ladies are participating in and a part of this struggle, and sharing their information will be tremendously helpful for you. I was thinking as I was talking about a family that's connected with our church. Actually, one of our members, her mother is getting up in age, and she was saying that her mother was at the point where she couldn't get her out of bed, and they had determined there was nothing physically wrong with her, but she had resigned herself to staying in the bed. And as we were talking, what we discovered was her mother had had a couple of falls, and those falls had occurred within a short time frame. And so there was a fear that she would fall again. Now, this wasn't a fear that was held onto by the family, but it was held onto by the lady who had fallen. And so at that point, she had just said, I don't want to go anywhere. Now, they were able to get her into occupational therapy, get her into physical therapy, help her regain some of her strength, and she was able to get out of bed. But that's just one of the things that we want to help you to be able to stay off. And if you can't stay it away, that you will learn how to manage it and walk through that. We want you to age in place. We also want you to age with grace. And there's a way that you can age. And while your independence may go and you become more dependent, we don't want you to lose that independence and become more dependent and lose dignity in the process. There are simple things that we can do because they're just physiological facts. As was stated earlier, you don't see as well in the dark when you get older as you see in the light or when you were younger. So for some of you who are older now, for example, you don't drive at night because you can't see as well. Well, that same factor is true when you're trying to walk around your house at night. So how do you get little night lights? How do you put little glow strips? What do you do to help yourself manage your independence better as you are getting older? Go to goodhope.org. That's GOODHOPE.org. And you will see the banner and connect with us so we can help you age in place and age with grace. I'm Dr. DZ Cofield for Real World Real Talk, signing off. You're listening to your member-supported public radio station, your number one source for jazz and more, KTSU 90.9 on the FM dial and KTSUradio.com. Stay tuned for Truth with V. Michael McKay, David Goldstein, Asia, and the crew. Until next time, God bless is my prayer. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real World Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes every week. Follow us via social media using the @RWRTDZ username on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To submit any comments, questions, sponsor opportunities, or future show suggestions, visit us online at rwrtdz.com or via email at info@rwrtdz.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you've been inspired to be the change you want to see in the world today. Until next time, be real, keep it real, and stay real.